Welcome everyone to the Intro to the UT and Austin Startup Ecosystem presentation and trade show. My name is Amanda Golden and I'm the program manager for the Herb Kelleher Center for Entrepreneurship. I hope everyone is doing well in this unprecedented fall semester. This is the first time we've ever offered the ecosystem presentation and trade show virtually, and I'm so excited to see so many of you here with us this afternoon to learn more about everything that the university and the Austin startup ecosystems have to offer for pursuing entrepreneurship and innovation. So thank you for joining us this afternoon. Just as a brief reminder of our schedule for today, I will be discussing the UT startup ecosystem, and then Melly Price, the executive director at the John Brumley Texas Venture Labs, will discuss the Austin startup ecosystem. Then at 5 p.m., our startup trade show will begin. There is a list of Zoom calls that were sent to all RSVP'd attendees. At the end of this session, I will also put up a slide with the link that you can go to find that list. The different resources represent resources on campus and off campus related to entrepreneurship, and they will be providing brief information sessions beginning every 10 minutes from 5 to 6 p.m. If you're unable to attend all of the resources that you're interested in connecting with, after this presentation and trade show, we will be posting the presentation as well as introductory videos from our trade show participants so that you can continue to learn more about the different resources that UT and Austin have to offer. Also, remember to connect with us on social media and to subscribe to our newsletter so that you can stay informed of all the happenings both on campus and around campus related to entrepreneurship and innovation. As I said, I'm with the Herb Kelleher Center for Entrepreneurship, and we exist to encourage and empower entrepreneurial thinking through outstanding teaching, research, engagement, and experiential learning. Before we get started, I'm going to show you a brief video that will provide a little bit more detail to that mission.
We are recruiting the next generation of freshman founders. All you freshmen out there, you should check it out.
It was a little bit difficult when we first started our business because we started it, or came with the idea in November, and we didn't know about all the resources. And then when we started second semester last year, we finally learned about all these amazing opportunities at UT for entrepreneurship, and they've been amazingly helpful.
This is the Entrepreneurship Trade Show. This is exciting because there's all sorts of different resources here. So if you have a startup, you're interested in making some money for your new venture and solving some social problems, it's really kind of the center of gravity for a lot of these things.
The mission of the center is really to encourage and empower entrepreneurship and innovation through outstanding teaching, research, experiential learning, and engagement.
Being innovative is how you change the world, and that's what the University of Texas is all about. It helps you look at the world a different way and find innovation and progress that other people aren't seeing so that you can be the change leader.
So with TEDx UT Austin, we've been really lucky to have some generous donations and funds from the entrepreneurship department, which is really helping us grow this event and bring it back to the community as well.
We just finished the Red Bull Launch Institute, where we got to go to New York and meet with consultants at Fahrenheit 212, and we went to TechCrunch Disrupt in San Francisco, where we got to pitch to investors, media, entrepreneurs, and more for 3 days.
What's really amazing is you have all of these innovation centers throughout every single college with top researchers and industry experts, and those are accessible to all of our students. So it's just such an exciting time on the 40 acres.
Our tagline at the University of Texas is "What starts here changes the world." And I can't think of a better way to change the world other than through innovation and entrepreneurship.
What starts up here?
What starts up here?
What starts up here changes the world.
So now we're going to jump into the different resources that are available through the University of Texas. The reach of entrepreneurship and innovation from the university is significant. The university has launched over 860 venture-backed founders and over 780 venture-backed companies that have raised over $11 billion in the last 13 years. Recently, the university was ranked as having the #8 graduate business school in entrepreneurship and the #7 undergraduate business school in entrepreneurship. There's also extensive entrepreneur programs and resources on campus. UT encourages collaboration and engagement from students, faculty, and staff in order to maximize the impact of entrepreneurship and innovation launching from campus. And UT is a critical part of the Austin startup ecosystem. As you can see from these next two slides, innovation and entrepreneurship at the university is also very broad across campus. There are entrepreneurship and innovation centers in every college on campus. That makes it so easy for any student interested in entrepreneurship and innovation to connect and gain support as you work towards achieving your goals. The UT ecosystem is comprised of university-level programming, student organizations, event series, academic programs and courses, and also contributes to the bridge to the Austin startup ecosystem, and the Austin ecosystem contributes to the UT ecosystem. One of the first ways that you can connect with entrepreneurship and innovation on campus is through taking classes or enrolling in formal academic programs related to entrepreneurship. The university has over 40 undergraduate courses in entrepreneurship and innovation and over 30 graduate courses. A few examples of undergraduate courses include Innovation and Entrepreneurship, New Venture Mechanics, Women in Entrepreneurship, History of Black Entrepreneurship in the United States, Longhorn Startup Lab and Seminar, and Creative Design or Creative Entrepreneurship. For graduate students, there is Product Development, Law for Entrepreneurs, Innovation through Design Thinking, Innovation Healthcare, and Social Entrepreneurship. In terms of degree plans and minors or certificates, the university offers an entrepreneurship concentration in the management major at the Cockrell School of Business, a Bachelor of Science in Arts and Entertainment Technologies through the College of Fine Arts. The entrepreneurship minor is housed in the Cockrell School of Business, but is open to any undergraduate student at the university. The College of Undergraduate Studies Bridging Disciplines program has 3 certificates related to entrepreneurship. There is Innovation, Creativity, and Entrepreneurship, a certificate in Design Strategies, and a certificate in Social Entrepreneurship and Nonprofits. For graduate students, there's an entrepreneurship concentration in the MBA program, a Master of Science in Technology Commercialization, an MPA portfolio in Arts and Cultural Management and Entrepreneurship, and brand new this year is a Master of Arts in Design with a concentration in Design and Health. Outside of the formal academic programs and classes, there are also numerous ways to explore entrepreneurship through speaker series, workshops, and special events. Entrepreneurship Live is a speaker series hosted by the Kelleher Center, offered once a semester, where we bring in prominent entrepreneurs to share their journeys of entrepreneurship and provide live insights into the lessons they learned along the way. Previous speakers include Tim League, who's the founder of Alamo Drafthouse Cinemas, and Julia Cheek, the founder of Everlywell. This semester, we'll have Stephanie Breedlove, the founder of Care.com HomePay, and the author of All In, How Women Entrepreneurs Can Think Bigger, Build Sustainable Business, and Change the World. She'll be joining us on October 8th from 5 to 6 p.m. and we hope all of you will join us for what will be a great and encouraging conversation. The Social Innovation Initiative hosts impact chats where they bring expert practitioners to speak about their work in sustainable business practices. In terms of workshops, the Texas Health Co-Lab Learning Series, sponsored by Dell Med, draws upon the expertise of industry leaders, clinicians, investors, and seasoned entrepreneurs to help innovators understand the opportunities and challenges of innovating healthcare. The Ignite Startup Workshop Series is hosted by the Kelleher Center, and those are once a month, 1-hour workshops on numerous topics related to new venture creation. Previous topics include pitchology, the art and science of negotiation, customer development, lean startup, product market fit, and building your team. This semester's topics include startup funding basics and innovation within organizations. There are also special events that students connect with by through centers on campus. The University of Texas Nutrition Institute will be hosting Taste of Texas on October 2nd. This event is a consumer packaged goods showcase and trade show focused on better for you food and beverage entrepreneurship. There are also workshops and other programs through the Kendra Scott Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership Institute. They have a workshop coming up on September 30th in partnership with Blackstone Launchpad focused on fundraising for female founders. As you work through the entrepreneurial process, you're going to need a team and a network of advisors and mentors to provide you with guidance and insights to help you overcome your biggest challenges. A couple of ways to meet peers interested in entrepreneurship would be to join a student organization like the Longhorn Entrepreneurship Agency or the MBA Entrepreneurship Society. You can also network with peers by attending one of the Kelleher Center's Coffee Connects, which are once a month networking opportunities where students can come together to learn about what's going on through the Austin ecosystem. The Social Innovation Initiative, Blackstone Launchpad, and Imagine Moody also offer networking opportunities for students to connect with one another. To find mentors, you can access the entrepreneurs and lawyers in residence through the Kelleher Center, the mentors in the Blackstone Launchpad, or the Texas Venture Mentoring Service through the Austin Technology Incubator. Once you have an idea for a startup concept, there are a variety of programs to help you validate your product or service prior to launch. The 40 Acres Founders Pre-Accelerator program is sponsored by the Herb Kelleher Center and will be a partnership in spring 2021 with Bank of America. The program offers 12 weeks of guided customer discovery, providing weekly seminars, access to mentors and graduate assistants, and the opportunity to pitch for funding at the end of the semester to continue building your venture. This program is open to any undergraduate student at the university, and the application is currently open. It will close on Friday, October 2nd at 11:59 p.m. And we have 2 information sessions coming up next week if you're interested in learning more about the program. Additionally, the Inventors program through the College of Natural Sciences brings students together to tackle real-life challenges for impact. You'll get started on industry research, join a team, envision a solution, and see what your idea can become. Finally, the Social Innovation Challenge is sponsored by the Social Innovation Initiative in partnership with Bumble, and it's a cross-campus social entrepreneurship pitch competition. As part of the program, students will be provided with a free social entrepreneurship curriculum and workshops to help build socially and environmentally conscious ventures. At the end of the semester, students will participate in a pitch competition, and the top teams from that competition will attend the Fowler Global Social Innovation Challenge. Once you've validated the idea for your startup, you can access a variety of resources to aid with your launch. A few examples include the Student Entrepreneur Acceleration and Launch, or SEAL program, sponsored by the Austin Technology Incubator. This program selects the most promising emerging UT startups, either undergrad, grad, and sometimes faculty-led teams, and helps them confront their next market-driven milestone. Longhorn Startup Lab is a project-based course during the spring semester that identifies student entrepreneurs who are building scalable technology companies and gets them course credit for working on their startup. Participants in the class receive weekly one-on-one mentoring sessions with successful entrepreneurs and free co-working memberships at Capital Factory. The semester culminates in a demo day where students present their companies to the Austin community. Freshman Founders is a semester-long immersive activity for aspiring first-year student entrepreneurs. Students will participate in entrepreneurial seminars and network with members of the Austin startup community. Finally, Texas Convergent is an interdisciplinary entrepreneurial organization that aims to equip students with the necessary skills and resources to drive the future of innovation. Texas Convergent hosts an incubator program for students, connecting founders to engineers and product managers. While you're working on launching your startup, you might also be interested in applying for funding here on campus. And there's a variety of funding resources that students can access. Disrupt Texas is an undergraduate pitch competition hosted by the Kelleher Center. Applications are now open and will close on Monday, September 28th at 11:59 p.m. The competition will be held via Zoom on Saturday, November 7th, and Disrupt Texas is open to any undergraduate student at the university. The Entrepreneurship Summer Fellowships are also provided by the Kelleher Center and provides funding to undergraduates and MBA students who are interested in working on their startups over the summer semester. Applications for that program will open in the spring. Pitch Texas is a pitch competition hosted by the university, open to both graduate and undergraduate students, with finals taking place during South by Southwest. The John Brumley Texas Venture Labs investment competition is available to graduate students and is held in both the fall and spring semester. Finally, Genesis is a student and alumni partnership which provides student startups with funding to pursue their ventures. We also know that many of you might be interested in learning more about entrepreneurship on campus and how startups work, but not so sure that you want to be employee number one of a venture just yet. For those students, we would recommend exploring the multiple practicum options that exist on campus. Practicum courses will give you hands-on experience working on projects for startups and allow you to explore the startup life while still discovering if you want to launch your own venture. For graduate students, there's the John Brumley Texas Venture Labs Practicum course. And for undergraduate students, there are practicum courses through the Entrepreneurship Minor, the Kendra Scott Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership Institute, and other centers and programs on campus. Being a part of the University of Texas and the university ecosystem for entrepreneurship and innovation is just one piece of the resources that you have access to. One benefit of being a student at the university is that you have access to the many resources available in the Austin ecosystem. To provide a discussion of what some of those resources look like, I'd like to invite Melly Price to join us on this webinar. Melly is the director of the John Brumley Texas Venture Labs, an adjunct instructor for the Longhorn Startup course. In her cross-disciplinary roles at the University of Texas, Melly leads programs that support entrepreneurs, partners, inventors, clinicians, researchers, faculty, staff, and students in the creation of products and services that improve patient health outcomes and lower the cost of healthcare. Melly is an 8-time entrepreneur and is well known as a co-founder of the nationally recognized entrepreneurial hub Capital Factory and the cooperative innovation consulting firm SoftMatch. Melly was the recipient of the Austin Business Journal's Profiles in Power Award in 2015 and its Tech Flash Titan Award in 2014. Finally, Melly serves on the Health Alliance and Technology Advisory Committee for Austin Mayor Steve Adler. Thank you for joining us, Melly.
Thanks, Amanda. Well, are you all ready to learn a little bit about the Austin startup ecosystem? Let's get this going. Super. So we're talking about Austin, which is experiencing a heyday the last few decades. We've had a bunch of growth, and a lot of it's due to our booming tech sector. But do you ask yourself why? Why are so many people coming to Austin to launch their startups? I'm gonna give you a history lesson without boring you, because I think it's really relevant to understanding the entrepreneurial resources that are available to you in Austin. So we're going to do a quick history lesson. I'm going to talk about some of the accelerators, some of the angel networks and funding resources that are available. We're going to talk about co-working and co-working in the time of COVID. We're going to discuss some of the meetups that are available, non-university options for education and building skills. I'm going to share a little bit about the events that happen every year that you absolutely should be a part of. I'm going to tell you who to read and follow on social media if you want to stay aware of what's going on in the ecosystem. And then if you're looking for a co-founder or a mentor or a job or maybe somebody to join your own startup, I'm going to cover that as well. And then, of course, at the end, Amanda and I will be answering questions. So a little bit about Austin startup history. As Amanda alluded to, the university feeds the Austin ecosystem as much as the Austin ecosystem feeds the university. And to really understand and appreciate this, you have to go back to 1950s. So in the 50s, there were a few companies in Austin, including Texas Instruments and a company called Tracor. What's interesting about this is back in the 50s, these companies were generally focused on manufacturing and defense contracting. So our roots go all the way back there. And you have to remember that we're a tier 1 research university. So that's a big part of what made Austin interesting back in that period of time. Now, what's fascinating is that Tracor, which was launched in 1954, in 1976 became one of Austin's first publicly traded companies. And guess what? Tracor was a spin out of the University of Texas at Austin. So just to give you a little bit of sense of timing, this is about the same time that Research Triangle Park was born in North Carolina. So really bad slide, ugly slide, because in the 70s slides weren't around, but the gist of what happened in the 70s and the early 80s was that companies started to realize that one of the key components of a company like Tracor's success was access to university talent, to master's and doctoral students who had deep subject matter expertise. And so this notion called a technopolis became a concept. And what did you need for a technopolis? You needed a university, you needed an industry, you needed incubators, and you needed a quality of life, and you needed infrastructure, right? Guess what? Austin had all those things. And so at that period of time in the 70s, Austin's economy was about $4 billion. Sounds like a lot of money, but now it's about 3.5 times that at $140 billion. This is because in this kind of period of time, 4 major companies really landed in Austin or were grown from Austin. So a company called Motorola established its semiconductor plant here in Austin in 1974. IBM started recruiting folks for what was a key punch back then. Tracor IPO'd, and National Instruments became one of the companies to build software related to this. So these 4 companies really became the bedrock of what we call the tech sector in Austin. And I promise you it's relevant to today. I want to take a minute and make sure y'all understand the life cycle of taking products to market and the ecosystem that you sit in as the University of Texas at Austin. So to take an idea, take a concept from idea all the way to being a successful startup, a lot of times it starts with research funding. And the University of Texas at Austin is a tier 1 research facility that brings in over $500 million in research funding. And so that far left side of the life cycle is fed by the research process. They're pursuing idea for the sake of knowledge, and in that process, they create new discoveries. And those discoveries become the foundation for what we as entrepreneurs want to go commercialize. On this slide, I represent, just to build your understanding of when angel investment comes into play. It's usually in that very early stage of finding an idea, but not yet having product market fit. At the bottom of the curve is where most startups die. And we all know the statistics that, not every startup is successful. And so part of today's presentation is about how these resources at the University of Texas at Austin and across the city of Austin can help you be successful getting across that valley of death. That's what makes the winners. That's where you get Series A funding and Series B funding. It's really important to understand that as a student entrepreneur or a graduate student entrepreneur, or even for those faculty, PI, and people from the community that may be listening, this is the opportunity that the University of Texas provides in our city, and it's really fantastic. I want to credit a fellow named Pike Powers, who was actually an attorney who understood that life cycle. And Pike was really instrumental in the 80s recruiting a guy named Bobby Inman, Admiral Bobby Inman. Now, this is important because you're about to hear a lot about how the defense industry still considers Austin a hotbed. But Admiral Bobby Inman came in, and together they launched two really critical companies called Sematech and MCC. And those organizations, MCC was a consortium of about 20 computer companies, right? And they went to DC and they were involved in passing a bill in Washington, DC that allowed big research institutions to commercialize the findings. And so that created a whole ecosystem. The beginning of Austin as a tech epicenter started with in the late 80s and early 90s with a company called Tivoli. So Tivoli came out of some IBM folks. And in the course of 9 years, Tivoli built a company that ended up having a liquidity event of about $750 million-ish. And it made several folks quite wealthy. They became angel investors. And out of that period of time, you'll see from this image that a lot of companies were started out of the roots of that money. And these companies serve today as mentors and angel investors and all the good stuff that you're here to take advantage of. I'd be remiss not to mention our hometown hero, Michael Dell. He started his company at the University of Texas at Austin in 1984 out of his dorm room. We've gone on to build just a number of companies since then. And George Kosmetsky, who was actually recruited to be the dean of the business school, led Austin Technology Incubator, which is one of the resources Amanda referred to. And Austin Technology Incubator has been instrumental in feeding this ecosystem that we're talking about. So since then, over 50% of Fortune 500 companies have been displaced by digital disruption. And in the next 20 years, it's projected, in the next 10 years, it's projected that another 75% of the S&P 500 will also be disintermediated. And that's why people are coming to Austin, and that's why there's all these amazing resources here for you. Market share is changing hands unlike it has ever before. And large incumbent companies are trying to hold on, and all these new nimble companies are hustling to take it away. And the result is Austin, Texas is at the epicenter of all of this because 70 years ago, we started building the infrastructure for this. It's important to recognize these things don't happen overnight. We've launched companies like HomeAway, which was a $4 billion liquidity event, to Expedia and the brand VRBO. We've launched Indeed, which is a $1 billion company in the recruiting space. We've launched Sparefoot, which is a wonderfully successful local company. And all these founders continue to come to programs like Longhorn Startup to make themselves available for our next generation of entrepreneurs. WP Engine, founded by a good friend of mine and led by an extraordinary female CEO. They were one of the largest tech companies to have a big funding event in Austin, Texas, closed $250 million in funding. Bumble, which of course we all know is a phenomenal success story. Outdoorsy, South by Southwest, not necessarily a software company, but has made an absolute impact since 1994 in the music and media industries. And of course, we can't forget things like Whole Foods. What a phenomenal success. And our own Kendra Scott, right? All these companies are what go into making this ecosystem. Oh, last but not least, and important in my life, Austin City Limits Festival, one of the most prominent and entertainment brands, was born right here in Austin, Texas. So Austin's at the top of every list, and I'm going to tell you where you want to be. There's a lot going on, and quite frankly, it can be pretty overwhelming. We're at the top of the list in terms of Texas, right? Texas is a phenomenally healthy economy right now. We have the highest GDP growth of many states in the US. We're ranked, depends on the year, we're ranked in the top few of startup activity. Up there with California, sometimes we swap places with them. 4 of the top 10 cities in the nation are here in Texas, with Austin, San Antonio, Houston, and Dallas. and all 4 of them rank heavily by startup activity. And that's important because part of what the Austin ecosystem offers you is access to other markets in Texas. These are things that people from all over the nation come and set up shop in Texas to try to get a hold of, and it's right here in your backyard. We're consistently one of the top places to live by various rankings. We are definitely one of the top places to grow a business, one of the top places to get a job, if not the top place. And Amanda mentioned Capital Factory, which I, in full disclosure, I am a co-founder of and a proud supporter of. You know, Capital Factory was one of the first tech hubs for Google. And what that means is that we've, over the last 10 years, been able to build a great ecosystem. Capital Factory is the center of gravity for a lot of activity, including the home for the Center for Defense Innovation, which provides a lot of funding for engineering and science-based startups. Capital Factory is a big part of connecting that wonderful ecosystem across Texas that I've talked about. So I do encourage everyone to get to know there's lots of free ways and lots of ways to get plugged in, and that's what I'm going to talk about. There's a number of accelerators. They're not all represented here on the slide, but these are some of the most active accelerators, whether it's in health, diversity, specific technologies. There's all kinds of ways for you to get engaged with these accelerator programs. There's a number of angel networks. We have Central Texas Angel Network is based here in Austin and has been one of the most active angel networks in the country. HAN, which is Houston Angel Network, also extremely active. Beam, which is a brand new angel network that I have helped set up, is specifically funding women-led ventures. Of course, there's the Aggie Angel Network. But there are just a number of angels that are willing to fund early stage investments. And we can connect you to all of them. There's also a ton of places for co-working when the time is right and things are healthy. Pretty much anywhere you live in the city, you can get to a startup-oriented co-working facility. Really encourage you to do that. It's a great place to get to know people and plug into some of the events that are going on. There's a lot of diversity-focused events and organizations. This is not a completely comprehensive list because it changes a lot and it's changed in the time of COVID. But for those of you that are interested in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space, we have a really strong representation in the Austin startup community. I've mentioned defense innovation because it's kind of been a part of our history, but this is an extremely important resource for our startup community. The Center for Defense Innovation lives at the Omni building downtown, which is the Capital Factory space. Inside of that, we have Army Futures Command, Army Applications Lab, the Air Force AFWorks program, Defense Innovation Unit. Booz Allen and Deloitte is building a lab. The reason these are important is just in the last 12 or so months, over $60 million in funding related to SBIR and SDTR grants has happened related to this. And so a wonderful place, particularly if you have an engineering or scientific or computational science oriented startup idea to get embedded. Lots of resources available there, and it's unlike anything else in the country. There's meetups. I think there's a joke on 4chan that if it exists, there's probably a meetup about it. Well, guess what? There are a lot of meetups, and even in the time of COVID, now they're happening online, which makes it even easier to go to them. Definitely encourage you to go get involved in the meetup ecosystem. And of course, there's all kinds of events and other programming that's available to you, from 3-Day Startup to Bunker Labs, which is veteran focused, to Div Inc., which is diversity focused, Founders Academy, Women in Austin. All of these organizations provide regular learning opportunities. I'd be remiss not to mention my colleague Gordon Dougherty's Founders Academy. It is a phenomenal resource. He does it quarterly. It's a fantastic way to learn the basics of entrepreneurship. He talks about everything from how do you find an idea worth solving, to term sheets related to funding, to growing your sales pipeline. It's a great online opportunity, and I encourage you all to take advantage of that. And then if you're interested in learning to code and you're not a comp sci major, definitely plug into the coding schools. We have a number of those here. They have a variety of price points and periods of time it takes to get through the program. If you're interested in that, please let us know, and we can give you more information on that as well. A couple of key events I want to put on your radar. Of course, a lot of people know about South by Southwest. It's happening in a virtual environment in March of 2021. The way to get involved with South by Southwest is to participate in their panel picker. You can put in ideas for panels that would be of interest, and then the community votes on them. And so it's put your ideas in, and also review who's going to be talking about what, and then make sure when March comes around that you sign up to go to a lot of these virtual events. And then another one that we've been doing for several years now is Austin Startup Week, which is just going to be coming up. That's a celebration of Austin startups and all the organizations that support them. It's in non-COVID time, you get the opportunity to go from location to location and meet a lot of these folks, but in the virtual world, we're going to do it as well. Lots of places to connect on social media, depending on your preferred modality. The most informative one is going to be this plug into ATX startup scene. That is a great medium post where you can find out everything that's going on. There's some videos you can watch on Austin Tech Live about many of the founders that were featured in those companies that I mentioned, as well as dozens and dozens of others. There's so much phenomenal talent here in Austin. Medium's a great place to get subject matter expertise as well, whether it's marketing or programming. There's something there for everyone. There's an Austin Startups Facebook group that's quite active. There's an event called Open Coffee that was founded by Damon Clinkscales, who's a great programmer here in Austin and has been instrumental in keeping the community connected. It's a really informal, very friendly place to go, get to know folks over a coffee, and very friendly environment to meet some folks in. If you're interested in the intersection of policy with all things startup, there's a great Austin Tech Alliance group that you can get involved in for those of you that are interested in the impact of artificial intelligence and things like that in startups. And then, as I mentioned, if you're looking for a co-founder, a mentor, a job, definitely check out the Capital Factory Jobs. Definitely check out the Austin Digital Jobs Facebook posts. These are all very active. They do everything from give you feedback on your resume to companies that are interested in looking for folks. Post there. If you're interested in joining a team as a co-founder or finding a co-founder, great place to do it. And if you're into volunteering, there's even an Austin Tech volunteer group, which is a great way to get socially engaged. And of course, Built-in Austin is a wonderful tool as well. Finding a mentor, there are lots of mentors. Amanda overviewed a lot of what's available in the UT ecosystem. Capital Factory has a very robust mentoring program, as do many of the programs that I mentioned here today. But definitely get involved in mentor office hours. It's free. You sign up. You can get great subject matter expertise and build relationships and build your network that way. 3-Day Startup is another way to get connected. It's also a great way to look for a co-founder. 3-Day Startup events happen in a variety of communities and a variety of subject matter expertise. The bottom line is it's a hackathon. Women in Tech and Latinx in Tech are summits that we do at Capital Factory, focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the interface with all the companies in that space. And then every year there's a startup hackout, which is great for the LGBT community. I've been a proud judge of that a few times. Texas Venture Labs is another place that you all can get involved. I actually run that program, welcome you for office hours if you want to discuss any of the material I've talked about. And I also co-teach Longhorn Startup, which last but not least is a great place to explore any ideas that you might have. You can take it as an undergraduate or a graduate student, and it's a great place to find a team and build a company. So lots of stuff that we've covered. Feel free to reach out, and I believe we're going to open it for Q&A, but you're in the best city in the nation to start a company and or to be a part of one. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Melly. And we do have a few questions that have come in. One, someone was wondering how they can sign up for the JBTVL or the Texas Venture Labs practicum course.
Great, great question. So the practicum course is for graduate students. So if you're interested in that, you can Google Texas Venture Labs, and the application is in our website. We also do kind of a company in residence. So for those of you that might be listening who are not students, who are interested in giving students learning opportunities, you can also fill out that application there as well.
Great. And this was in the chat, and I responded in chat, but just so everybody knows, yes, we will be posting this recording on our website. Give us about a week or so to get it up on the website, but we will definitely be posting this because there's a lot of information covered. And we know that you might want to go back and rewatch certain parts of the presentation. And so let me see, there was another question in the chat. Someone was asking about, you mentioned resources for co-founders. Can you reiterate what that resource was for everyone?
Resources for finding co-founders are a lot of the UT campus resources that Amanda mentioned. Programs like Longhorn Startup, Herb Kelleher Center has a lot of connective tissue to that world. Obviously at Capital Factory, finding co-founders is really about getting out there, pitching your ideas. And I do want to mention that one of the most effective ways to get in front of people is to pitch. Every week at Longhorn Startup, Monday night between 6 and 8 p.m., we do something called Open Pitch Pizza. And we used to serve pizza when we did it in person. But you can come pitch your idea. You don't need to be in the class. And you can come pitch your idea, and that will put it out in front of several hundred people. And that's a great way to build relationships. And then if you want to meet up, then you meet up directly after that.
Great. And it looks like there's a couple of questions about resources for grad versus undergrad. Unfortunately, there's not a centralized list that, says these are graduate student resources, these are undergraduate student resources. So it'll take a little bit of investigating. The Kelleher Center supports both graduate students and undergraduate students, as do many of the resources on campus. And so you'll just, our website actually has the startup ecosystem where we list all of the different resources. We have a booklet that lists all the different startup resources. So I would say that's the best starting point right now, is going through and looking at those resources on our website. And I actually put that link in chat, and I can put it in the chat again. It's under the ecosystem section of our website to see which resources would be most appropriate for your level of education and what exactly it is that you're working on. It looks like there was also a question about part-time students, particularly those in the professional MBA program, accessing resources. I will speak to the Kelleher Center. All of our events are open to any student, so you could attend all of our events. You can utilize our entrepreneurs in residence. And so some of our more formal programs, as I mentioned, are geared towards undergraduate students, but all of our events and our entrepreneurs in residence are open to any student enrolled. I don't know, Melly, do you have anything geared specifically towards the professional MBA students, or are they able to access the TVL resources?
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to jump in and say Texas Venture Labs is exclusively graduate student oriented. So for any graduate students that are interested in getting plugged in, please feel free to reach out to us. We can connect you with alumni who are interested. We can connect you with companies that are interested, and we can connect you with other graduate students who are interested in starting companies. And then specifically for the MBA students, we have a couple of tracks of support that we can offer MBAs, MSTCs, masters and PhD students. So absolutely reach out for that. tvl.utexas.edu.
And it looks like there's a question from a company, which is exciting, about participating in practicums. And that is definitely an option. I'll let Melly talk to the TVL practicum. For the undergraduate practicums, you would need to connect with those individual areas. So the Entrepreneurship minor or the other centers and programs that offer practicum courses. But they do have companies that sponsor projects for their practicum classes that students work on. So that's definitely an option. Melly, I'll let you talk about what TVL looks like.
Yeah, thanks, Amanda. So Texas Venture Labs has what we call it an accelerator. It's not an accelerator in the traditional sense that people come to be associated with it. It's a no fee, no equity accelerator. And it's kind of the umbrella for where companies can come tell us what kinds of projects they're looking for help on, and we can help connect them to the students that want to do that. We've had about 250 companies go through the accelerator and connected them with over 775 graduate students over the years. So we've got a real simple process and a team that manages that. If you're a company that's interested in working on it, feel free to send your application through us. And if we're not the right fit, we can also help plug you in with the right fit across campus, because we're obviously connected to a lot of the practicum programs.
And there was one that I think would be, was referencing more the Austin ecosystem, and that was fundraising suggestions, where to go for fundraising at the seed stage, and your recommendations on that.
Yeah, fundraising is always a subject of great interest. The first thing I do is I participate in one of the Capital Factory fundraising Ask Me Anythings. If you go to events.capitalfactory.com, the calendar there's a regular cadence of Ask Me Anythings, and one of them is fundraising specific. That's one of the most comprehensive. There's also then specific boot camps. So Women in Austin does a fundraising boot camp if it's a women-owned company. Actually, I believe they'll do fundraising boot camps, allow anybody to come. But there's a number of fundraising events, meetups, and educational opportunities that you can get plugged into. Best place to find them, though, the central place for all that stuff is events.capitalfactory. It's not just Capital Factory events, it's everything that's going on in the community.
It looks like we got a question in here about high school exposure and experience opportunities and resources for entrepreneurship. I know there's a lot of local high schools that have entrepreneurship organizations for their students. I'm personally in Leander School District, and several of their high schools have incubator programs for their students. So I know a lot of high schools have those programs. Beyond that, Melly, are you aware of anything geared towards high school students in the Austin ecosystem generally?
Yeah, I will toss out a wonderful program called Code to College, Code #2 College, which helps connect high school students interested in programming to real world experience. Phenomenal program. And if that's not a good fit, Matt Stevenson, who is the founder of that, can probably help you find the right fit. Great program.
Wonderful. And there is a question about crowdfunding and your suggestions for crowdfunding. Melly, do you have any?
Sure. You know, crowdfunding, you really definitely need to have something that you've done some market validation on. because crowdfunding is contingent on you having an idea that you can get out there and get in front of enough people to raise enough money to make it interesting. There's a number of platforms, and it really kind of depends on what your idea is as to what I would recommend. But the thing I'd focus on first is making sure that you've done the work of talking to enough people that crowdfunding is a viable option. The technology platform itself usually isn't the challenge. It's getting it in front of enough people that you raise the money.
Wonderful. Well, I know we didn't have time to answer all of the questions, but I want to make sure that everybody has plenty of time to make it through as many of the trade show resources as they would like. So I am going to put up the slide that has the link to visit the trade show participants. Again, these are all going to be Zoom information sessions, but the trade show section of our website, herbkellehercenter.com/2020 trade show, has all of the links on there to make it very easy for you to visit these different resources. I want to thank all of you for attending this presentation. I hope it helped shed light on the different ways you can connect with entrepreneurship on campus and within Austin. As Melly said, there are so many things, and it's wonderful because that means there's so many options, but it can feel a little overwhelming because there's so many options. So I hope this helped make that process feel a little easier for all of you. And remember, we will post this presentation and the introductory videos from all of our trade show participants on our ecosystem website for you to view afterwards. And